I'm David from Swayzak, and you're watching Inverted Audio. Well, for the past few months I've been working on an album for the Tresor label, which is coming out in June. A bit more of an experimental album from our previous works. The earlier Swayzak stuff was more collaborations in the studio, but for this album we decided to make something more club-based, trying to take the energy of the club and put it on an album basically. Tresor was one of the Berlin clubs that we were playing at quite regular over the last 3 or 4 years. We used to play a lot more at places like Watergate or Panorama Bar, but because we hadn't done an album for a while, you kind of, people tend to forget about you, but I didn't really want to make an album, so I've kind of had 5 years without making any albums, and I think it shows it, put a lot more energy into this one. Been working with Tresor mainly because of the club, and each time I went to the club I thought the club was getting better and better, and a good atmosphere, and the great sound system now. Actually a guy from Tresor used to work at my old label K7, and we were just chatting about releasing on Tresor, and it just happened really bang like that, really naturally. It wasn't like I didn't send the demos to anybody else, that was the only person I sent the music to. It's a concept from our live sets, because we always played live and it was always much more aggressive than our studio album stuff, and we always felt that it was something that we had to recreate from playing live and then put it into the studio. So we started out with a collection of loops myself and James Taylor worked on in Montpellier, and then I brought them back to London, just over the street over there, and processed them and started building songs out of them. I suppose it has, because I always tried to write more song structured stuff, but when you play in a club, a lot of the time people didn't really have the patience for the kind of songs, so we kind of slowly broke down the songs into loops and tracks, and that was the kind of structure for this album. We had basically a collection of loops on Ableton Live, and then I built it up from there, processed them through various pieces of equipment I have, tried to make it kind of cross of analog, digital kind of crossover, rather than, because there's so many people doing just sort of strictly digital laptop type stuff. I was kind of not really excited about doing more stuff like that. I wanted to try and recreate something just at a much heavier atmosphere, and I think that's quite difficult to do digitally, but analog you can get a lot more bottom end, a lot more warmth in the sound. Well, I suppose the most interesting thing is the growth of underground electronic music, and it almost became the mainstream thing, and you listen to records now on the radio, and they'll use an old house tune as a backing track for Beyonce and stuff like that now. It's like 1990s Essex house music, the backing music, you're like, wow, that's amazing. And things that changed, I suppose, we were in the early days going to play in Berlin or Frankfurt or Cologne, playing with people from Compact, or playing with the people from Tresor, or and just seeing how their sort of the German scene exploded and became such an influence on Britain, because before that there wasn't any German influence at all, and I like to think we were part of that, because we did a couple of mix albums and we put a lot of German electronic music on it. We were going there to play a lot. There wasn't a huge amount of other British producers out there. Just travelling around and being inspired by things. Because they're not songs, usually the track title will come out of the lyrics. But with this album, I had just working titles, so it was things I read in the newspaper, things that were going on. Themes like The Last Drop, it's all about the oil business, the demise of sort of our usage of I suppose our desire for more and more of it, and how it is literally running out, and what we're going to do at the end of that. The 31 techniques was about, I was reading about what was going on in Syria and how they have 31 techniques of torture by the Syrian Secret Service, which is a rather sinister thing. There's also a couple of things that are very influenced from being in Berlin, like Elsenstrasse 171 is actually the bus to the airport, which I love taking. Lots of people take taxis, but I really like taking the bus. Another track called End of the Line Old Boy, which was, I was kind of working on that as my father was dying, and that's what he said to me in his hospital. He said, "It's the end of the line, old boy." So it seemed like a good title, you know. Yeah, I mean, I grew up with vinyl. My first job, I worked in a hi-fi store. We used to build turntables by hand, so I just grew up with vinyl. We used to do demonstrations between vinyl and CDs at the time, and the vinyl always blew it away, so I always stuck with vinyl. I tried DJing a couple of times digitally, like using Tresor. I didn't really like it. I like the feel of taking your records. It feels like you're doing something, sorting out your records, carrying them around with you. You know, you're putting a bit of energy into it. I think taking a bag of CDs is a little bit, it's just a bit lame really, and showing up with a laptop with all your tracks already on it, your whole catalogue basically. I like when I go home, I'll go through my records and say, what are they going to like tonight? You're not always right about it, of course, but that's a risk you take. I like that, and I played last week in Istanbul, and I played only records, and it was kind of a disaster because the turntables were not working properly, but it was really good fun at the same time, and the people appreciate that you play records as well. Well, Swayzak originates from, I think we were stoned on a beach in Cornwall about 15 or 16 years ago, and it actually originates from Patrick Swayze in the film Point Break, where he's riding the last wave and he disappears into the waves, and we were always like, well, if you catch the wave, you were known as the Swayzak, but the waves were all like this big, and he could only really body surf, but it was kind of a stoned idea, and James said, we should call the band Swayzak, and I was like, okay, it's a good idea. Because this is a newer project, James isn't really part of it anymore. I wanted, a newer identity. SWZ K represents this new project. Also, you get people wanting to still connect with Swayzak, so I think, it's just kind of a nice thing. They can still recognise it as Swayzak. I don't want to play like the Rolling Stones for 50 years under the same name or something like that, But I understand if you start something new, it's very difficult for people to get their heads around it, because we do have a good reputation over the years, so it's silly just to discard that. How we looked at Fabric was, we'd been playing there for a couple of years, and since it opened, we listened to a lot of the other Fabric CDs. We kind of felt that you might as well be at the club when you're listening to it. I didn't see the point, so we decided to make something that was more chilled out, basically, that you can listen to at home, or before you're going out, or when you come back, and that's how it works best, I think. You shouldn't listen to me. Get a proper job.